Transmission is go. Underbase is live.
Hello and welcome to the Underbase. In the week where Katy Perry dresses up as Bam Bam Bigelow, we're going to be asking, who would you dress up as in your Super Bowl performance, and how would you make your Sharks dance? We're here for More Than Meets the Eye number 37, and I am joined as ever by Mr. Chris McFeely.
Which is funny because, you know, we are dealing with a universe about a guy who runs around covered in flames and a performing shark. So we got that going for us.
Yep, see, we're relevant.
Yep.
And we're, of course, joined by Adam as well.
We're also in a universe which hopefully doesn't have a Katy Perry, so we won't have to talk about her anymore.
Oh, she was probably one of the many souls who died during All Hail Megatron.
Go Megatron.
W continuity, Katy Perry. R.I.P. What's about?
So, gents, all okay with you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, all good.
Fantastic. Thanks for that massive input, guys. Cheers.
You're welcome.
They're here for the comic. They're not here.
They aren't here for any of this. So we're here, as we said, for More Than Meets the Eye, number 37. And before we start, we have some covers. Covers, people, covers. The regular cover, artwork by Alex Milne, coloured by Josh Perez, features Impactor getting a little angry. The subscription cover, artwork by Nick Roach and coloured by Josh Burcham. He features Hammer and Anvil looking rather angry. And the retailer incentive cover, artwork by Kotiri, features Skids, Cyclonus and Tailgate looking a little drunk. Chris, which one's your buy-ins?
Much of a muchness this month, I think. I went with the Impactor one, but for no particular reason.
Mm-hmm.
Not a very exciting answer, I'm afraid. Sorry.
Well, that kind of sums up the covers, doesn't it? Yeah. None of them really jump out and say, buy me, and yeah, they're just much of a wash. Adam?
I'm glad you said it was Hammer and Anvil, because the first time I looked at that, I was like, it's two fat dudes.
It's Runamuck and Runabout, they've had upgrades.
Well, yeah, like they haven't hit the gym in a while. Or hit it too much.
Yeah, they've got Cartman beefcake, haven't they? They've been ploughing the protein shakes, but not really going for it.
Yeah, they're on some serious illegal energon enhancers.
They have pumped themselves up.
Yeah, honestly, I wouldn't have known their names if I hadn't have read the issue.
I wouldn't have remembered them.
Well, they have. Yeah, they've been here before.
Yeah, they have. They
have
appeared before.
But what does that tell you? Like?
Exactly.
I would for the record, I would go with the Impactor cover, but not because it's superbly better than the others. It's just, probably more. It's a bit more colourful and more interesting, I guess.
Yeah, I think you could probably level that all of them are fairly heavily inked and dark in colour. The Impactor one is at least action filled. I'm struggling because it's not like any of them are horrific, but it's not like any of them are making me go, yeah, you know what, I would like that on my wall.
I do like the way the Impactor drill comes out 3D style in front of the Days of Decepticon side banner.
Yeah, if that's the best thing we can give, most credit we can give it.
That's probably just more coincidence than anything. It kind of looks like the piece of art was drawn, without the banner being planned at the time, and if they couldn't cover the drill because it would pretty much kind of ruin the whole image, so it just comes out the other side.
Well, accident or not, I'm going to compliment it. Yeah. It's a good bit of photoshopping.
I think it's really great to see IDW giving Kotari some work as well. I don't know if anybody. I'm sure there are plenty of listeners who know her work from Tumblr, but she's a popular fan artist, and that's a cover that doesn't particularly interest me, but I think it'll really resonate with its target audience.
Do you think this is a move by IDW to reach a new audience, possibly?
I don't think there'd be anything new about the audience.
Well, you've got to think that there are some people that will just like the artwork and like Transformers, but not read the comic.
Oh yeah, but I mean, it's the more than meets the eye fandom already anyway. You know, everything that picture is doing there with a little cutesy tailgate with a plaster on his head because, he hit his head or something and now he's having a drink or something cute like that. Oh, it's Cyclonus and tailgate. Not at all abusive. That's just the more than me. And we'll have some more to say on this issue. That's just a lot of, that's a row of boxes ticked for this particular piece.
Let's just make one thing clear here. Tailgate walked into that door.
Yes, it was his fault for leaving the mop out.
Bam! Straight to the moon.
Yeah, fantastic. The Underbase in no way endorses domestic abuse.
Certainly not. As I say, we'll have some more to say.
Yes. So, shall we get into this before this gets really out of control? Rodimus leads a team of Autobots into Cybertron's past, pursuing the Decepticon double agent Brainstorm. If you're only joining us having not read like the last 3 or 4 issues, sorry. Brainstorm's bad guy now. Realising Brainstorm plans to use his time machine briefcase to kill Orion Pax before he became Optimus Prime, thus ensuring the Decepticons win the war against the Autobots, the team help Pax stop Sentinel's plan to experiment on Cybertronian sparks. However, Brainstorm jumps further back in time, so Rodimus and co. follow him. Written by James Roberts, art by Alex Milne, coloured by Joanna LaFuente, lettered by Tom B. Long, and edited by John Barber. We all up to speed?
Yes.
Good. We open in Rodion, pre-war Cybertron, the city-state of. And Rodimus is basically on the lookout for Brainstorm. We have jumped from where we were at the end of last issue, which we did actually do at the end of last issue, which was with the Outliers.
Mm-hmm.
That is their name, the X-Men. And that nice little self-contained story we had last issue. We have now jumped back, and everybody is basically scouting for our bad guy. We see various characters popping up here, there, and everywhere. We see a pre-war Cosmos, which is always nice.
Maybe. It's his colours, anyway.
Yeah, and he's a fat dude with a red head. It'll do. Rodimus and Whirler teamed up. Rewind is on top of a blimp. Riptide is in the water because, he's a boat. Cool alt mode, by the way.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen it before.
No, neither do I. I think we guessed it was a boat.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a hydropod. So.
And Chrome Dome is on a train, funnily enough. Because he doesn't want to... Basically, they're in his old precinct. We're around the time, as we find out, where he is working there. And Tailgate and Cyclonus are looking out over Rodion as well from another angle, which it makes up one of our cross-page panels. And at this moment, with Cyclonus looking at Cybertron before the war, he gets a bit sentimental and is kind of taken aback by it. And apologises to Tailgate. What for? For giving him a kick when he was on the floor back in issue 6? 9?
4? 5? Very, very early on.
Yeah.
It's about as relevant as it's about the last time Cyclonus being weepy about Cybertron came up,
Yeah, it's probably true, actually, isn't it?
I mean, I'm joking and all, but I mean, I'd kind of forgotten this was a thing of Cyclonus's, so I did really like this moment for him whenever he just got to see Cybertron as it was. That was a nice moment for him. But we've talked before on the show about the kind of problematic... It's like, and a lot of people ship Cyclonus and Tailgate, and it feels like the book does play up to that. But it's insanely problematic.
Do you want to unpack that, Chris?
Well, he hit him And then he kicked him. Remember, Tailgate is only on the ground to be kicked because Cyclonus punched him down onto the ground first. And it's like, the attitude seems to be that, if Tailgate keeps being nice to him, he can totally change him, And it's like, that's just, all the red flags. Oh, he said he's sorry. He's sorry. Cyclonus has said he's sorry. It's taken him 3 years, but he said he's sorry. That'll never. Yeah, it's. I mean, it's not like I'm saying the book is intending to present things that way, and I'm not saying the book will ever write Cyclonus a striking Tailgate ever again, because I don't think he ever will. But it doesn't make it not problematic. I've always had a little bit of difficulty with the idea of them being paired because of that.
So, I mean, it's the issue is there is more to their relationship than just roommates, isn't there?
Well, there probably isn't in canon yet.
No, but it's, as you say, the way they've been paired together, the book has made a lot of their relationship, the growth of their relationship, even down to the end of Remain in Light, where Cyclonus was willing to put his friend out of his misery, or, use his amazing magical powers with a sword, which have never been mentioned since.
Where is that sword? Oh, well, I suppose it did show up fairly recently.
It's, there is more to that relationship. There, it's a different relationship to what Rodimus and Cyclonus has, or Ultramagnus and Megatron has.
They're very close because of their shared thing as bots out of time who are stuck in worlds that are not theirs.
I mean, do you think there's a certain element of Cyclonus' apology coming from that, just before this Tailgate is saying, I'm buried underground somewhere around here?
Yeah, I mean, I think just like Cyclonus is just emotionally vulnerable and maybe just... And I think it's the fact that Tailgate doesn't turn around and go for what or anything like that, is like Tailgate knows right away what he's talking about when he says it. I'm not sure what that means. I suppose it just means that Tailgate's never forgotten, but that he has perhaps forgiven him already. I don't know.
Adam, anything to chime in on this issue?
No, I think you guys have covered it. It's a delicate topic, I think, for any kind of comic book if it's not handled well, and especially if the interpretation is what we think it is. I guess, yeah. I mean, the scene itself I like. The two guys looking at pre-war Cybertron, and as you just said, with the Tailgate being buried here somewhere and Cyclonus wanting to see Cybertron. I guess the only way that, the thing I do like about the way it's written is, instead of Cyclonus apologising and Tailgate going, oh, don't worry, or whatever, it is just the noted, I think is probably the right way of writing it if you are going to do it. I think it would have been really awkward if it had been some sort of gushing accepting of the apology, or don't worry about it. Oh yeah, no problem. It's, noted.
I think part of it is it's only it's in a sense it's really only problematic if we're supposed to infer any kind of romantic undertone to the whole thing, because in the sense that as far as typical gender roles in media go, it's not uncommon in your average movie, novel, comic, whatever, for two guys who are friends, and in real life indeed, to maybe have a bit of a punch-up over a disagreement about something, because, that's how men solve their problems, apparently, allegedly. Okay, right, first of all, well, if we're to read any kind of romantic link between the characters into it, and if we are to assign gender roles to them, which is a whole other ball of wax anyway, Tailgate's the girl in this relationship, if you know what I mean. All the other suggestion about Tailgate's potential gender, notwithstanding anyway the ingenue, the choice of female voice actors and script readings, things like that, having a female avatar. That then is when it becomes problematic. It really only becomes problematic if you put Tailgate in that submissive role. Well, he's in it. Well, no, that's not true either. He's not submissive because he is the submissive partner either way, regardless of gender. I don't really know what I'm getting at here. I'm just saying that it's problematic if you think of Tailgate as the girl and this as romantic, and not as them, and not just as them as friends. That's guys who are friends.
I think it's I think it's probably safe to say that all three of us have an issue with, not an issue with it in the sense that we kind of hate it or anything, but there's a certain level of it. This is quite uncomfortable, which is maybe intentional.
Not the book being uncomfortable, mind you, but not specifically that, but the notion that there could be romance between these two is coloured by the physical violence that's happening.
But even if you take that out and there's you take a romantic element out, you've got a dude who's 5 times the size of another dude who at some point in the last year, or how long has it passed in Transformers land?
Let's say 2.5.
2 years. 2 years ago, punched him in the face for no reason and booted him in the ribs. You got a whole kind of bullying aspect and everything, even taking out the romance. And yeah, it's a tough one.
It's not something you almost expect a franchise comic to touch on. I'm not saying it shouldn't, because, these are comics, and therefore have every right, the same as anything from the Big Two or from Image, to touch on these issues. But it's not something you would naturally expect to find in a Transformers, a G.I. Joe, a My Little Pony comic.
But, well, no, is it though? I mean, because would it have been entirely, would you have been surprised back in the Marvel UK days if Blaster had turned around and punched Goldbug? No, you wouldn't have. And you wouldn't have held it against him, and you wouldn't have considered the relationship problematic. It's
There's just more of a depth to the comic now than there ever was in the Marvel UK.
Yes, that's it. I mean, there is more depth to the comic now, but this scenario that unfolded is not tied to that. It's something that could have easily happened. Blaster could have got honked off one time and punched Goldbug for not shutting up. It could have happened, but we wouldn't have looked at it this way and gone this deeply into it.
No, because we'd have been like 7.
But if we were this age. But I'm saying a lot of it is the shipping that goes on around these two characters, and I don't know. The book definitely plays up to that, but I don't know if it's ever actually intending to say that these two have a relationship like that, or could potentially have a relationship like that. Like, I honestly don't know.
I mean,
in much the same way, I'm waiting to see what the hell unfolds out of the Getaway thing.
Yeah, I mean, I as a reader, I've never read Tailgate and Cyclonus at the same level as Rewind and Chrome Dome.
Oh no.
It's probably more akin to Rodimus and Drift before his departure. It's
deeper than that.
Just good friends. Anyway.
Yeah, man. Anyway, maybe turn the page.
We'll turn the page. We'll come back to present day, and Megatron, Magnus, and Percy are basically going through. How do I put this? Filling in the gaps of plot, making the stuff. This is the stuff you need to know, in a way. And basically, they've worked out the pattern emerging is Brainstorm is jumping from the sociotemporal hotspots. Which is an intersection of space and time characterized by an event or a decision that has far-reaching consequences.
Key points in history.
Yes. It is unclear why Brainstorm is choosing them. It becomes pretty clear. And Megatron points out maybe he isn't. Maybe he has to land on them because the time machine isn't as precise as maybe you think it is. Magnus has a moment staring at Megatron where he goes through his Magnus mode, his Magnus glasses, and sees Megatron I mean, I suppose there's that level of seeing Megatron for who he truly is, or who he believes him to be. I mean, obviously, this is a key
database tells him
yeah, it's a key plot point for later on. And Percy's on the blur with Rodimus, trying to explain what's going on. You do have a lovely moment of Whirl in the background stroking his gun.
Whatever that gun is.
Yeah, just a reminder that is still there.
Yeah, that's the thing he took from Brainstorm's armory last year.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, Rewind has told Rodimus that his database is gradually being overwritten. And because Percy's obviously starting to worry about that. Does that mean he's already killed Pax? No, but now everything he's done is destined to. It's all getting a bit spacey, racy, timey, wimey, wibbly wobbly.
I can't remember if we brought that up last time or not.
What bit?
The idea that the fact that the future was changing already was evidence that the changes Brainstorm was going to make were destined to happen, even though from their point of view, linearly, he hadn't made them yet.
I don't think so. No, I think it was more to do with stuff just gradually being imprinted across our timeline that we know. It wasn't about destiny and such at that point, if I remember rightly.
The argument is that the 2 points here are either the changing database indicates that no matter what they do, they can't stop him, or it's something that could happen, which is interesting for what might happen after this storyline. Because does that mean that some things will have changed, and what don't we know, and how is that going to affect what's going on Cybertron? Because obviously, we have 2 books playing in the same universe, or 3 books coming up soon playing in the same universe.
That means nothing will have changed. The fact that there are 2 other books that are actually dealing with the rest of the Transformers universe instead of the neat little microcosm the Lost Light is away in means that nothing will happen.
You staking your reputation on that now, are you, Chris?
Fairly confident. I've already got points built up from this issue. As we will get to.
Percy is impressed, admitting that Brainstorm is a genius, because he understands less and less of it, which is really worrying if you're at the other end of that phone right now. And basically, he's saying you've got to stop him soon, otherwise I'm going to have to dismantle it, and all sorts of things could go wrong. So we now have a time limit, as it were, on what's going on. There's an additional sense of danger and threat. For some reason, the film Inception has just jumped to mind, which proceeded to remove all threat, and was boring because of it. And this is just layering it back up again. It's nice. Not only do we have Brainstorm could kill Pax, he might have already killed Pax. We don't know if he's killed Pax. Oh, by the way, if you don't sort this out soon, everything's going to go wrong anyway. Just a nice little added pressure, which doesn't always work in comic books, but I think it works here. And Rodimus calls Rung. And we'll get to McAdams in a minute. Adam.
Yeah.
2 pages of plot. What did you take?
What did I take away from this?
Yeah.
Magnus Vision came back. Should be in every issue. Just for kicks.
Again, that's another thing that's been a while coming,
Yeah, it obviously serves a plot point, as we'll go on to later, but that was a nice little welcome thing to see back again. Yeah, it's a lot of plot filling-y stuff, but interspersed with some nice things, like you pointed out, Perceptor calling Brainstorm a genius, but he's not there to hear it, which I'm sure he would have loved to have been. It's nice. It's, it's, as far as these kind of more than meets the eye style talking head plot type pages go, this is fine. Absolutely fine, given the pace of the issue so far. It does what it says on the tin. I don't think there's much more to add, to be honest.
Yeah. Chris, is there anything that you need to bring up from this?
No, nothing particular. I took away the plot. That was it. And I liked seeing, even though it's a nice. See, I didn't think there were any kind of setup happening. Seeing the Magnus vision again, but I just thought it was nice to see that because these are two characters. You know, Magnus in particular is one character who just like morally, ethically, is going to probably have some of the biggest problems with having Megatron on board. So it was just nice to see, because they've been quite cordial with one another from the little they've shared, because they haven't shared a lot of time together, but they've been quite polite to one another. So it's just nice to maybe see a little more into that. You know, just like nobody really. I mean, like, okay, we've had skids in past issues talking about maybe, you know, worrying about not hating Megatron enough and everything, but Magnus has enough hate to go around. But just like, it's like, this can go on for quite some time, Megatron as captain, but no one should ever truly become comfortable with the idea. And that's, you know, that's one of the things we talked about before. One of the amazing, it feels like a lot of the crew is kind of a bit too comfortable with the fact that Hitler, robot Hitler, is flying their ship now, you know?
Just, I can see a comic just built on that concept alone. That isn't More Than Meets the Eye, just a robotic version of Hitler flying a spaceship. It's kind of like Manhattan Projects would do a spin-off in that, somehow. I'm copyrighting that idea.
Original idea, do not steal.
Rung is in McAdams. Outside is Quark and Nightbeat.
Wait a minute.
Dun, dun, dun. And Rung's getting a bit apprehensive. Brainstorm is watching them. Says, damn it, and flies off. At this point, two guys are carrying along what looks like a body. We'll come back to that, because I think that could be something, but I might be wrong.
I don't know. I mean, there's no question about it, really, is there?
No, I mean, but who it is? Is
it the senator from Shadowplay who was hanging upside down?
Senator Sherma, who's going to be strung from the bridge in 30 seconds time.
Yes. Okay, just wanted to... Okay, done. Don't need to come back to it now. Just wanted to make sure. Trying to work out who it was that's doing it, but...
They don't look like anybody, but then they should be... They should be those two guys, but they didn't. We never knew who they were. We only saw them after they had spark swapped. Those don't look like the spark swapped forms, but I would have to get the issue out to check.
Yeah. And Quark and Nightbeat are having a conversation about some of the crazy stuff that's going on around the area at the time. I recognise a number of these bots that are background bots for some reason.
Yeah, are you not? You're not going to bring up the fact you recognise the pages?
Oh yes, these are from. Yeah. Are they just lifted direct?
Yes. They're just 2 pages of More Than Meets the Eye number 9. The first 2 pages of More Than Meets the Eye number 9 of Quark and Nightbeat outside McAdams talking about the rise of the Decepticons.
Now, see, I thought it was a different time and something had changed. I must have missed something.
Just a straight lift. That's the trick, you see, because in those 2 pages, back in More Than Meets the Eye number 9, we saw Rung sitting inside the shop, inside the thing, building a model of the Lost Light.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I think most people have assumed, I know I've assumed, that was supposed to imply something about the ship's history, because we know that the Lost Light has something of a history already that we're not privy to, that the cast don't know about yet. But instead, it turns out that the Rung we saw on those pages 2 years ago, 2 years ago? Yeah, more than 2 years ago now. 2.5 years ago, was the Rung of the present day, and it's the fact that he has a model of the Lost Light is what Brainstorm spots, and what tips Brainstorm off to the fact that it is Rung following him back through time and convinces him to leg it.
You've read a lot more into that than I did.
Oh, that's why he does. You see the little telescope zooms in tight on the Lost Light, and he sees it, and he goes, "Damn it!" because he knows it's from the future.
See, that's quite clever.
Now, whether or not More Than Meets the Eye number 9 was written with that intent in mind, that's a question for an auto assembly. But
That's pretty cool. Okay. Thanks, Chris.
that's what I'm here for.
Let's be fair, it's pretty much true. Brainstorm's doing one. Rewind spots him. Cyclonus goes off in pursuit. Brainstorm teleports. But I'm sure there's a reason why he says finally.
Seems like Megatron said, the case is not quite his to control.
Or has he got to be at a certain point?
88 miles per hour in the air.
That would be amazing.
No, I guess it's he's maybe on. Well, maybe there is a velocity thing involved. Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Or it takes time to charge, or something. Yeah.
I mean, he's arrived on Cybertron here anyway, obviously. And wait, no, hang on. Chronologically, this is which one is this again? Which date is this?
The second one. So we jump back a further year after this.
No, this is the day that. Wait. This is the day. Oh wait, hang on a second. I know this is the times. Wait,
is this where
No, because they're about to make another jump.
Yeah.
So this must be concurrent with the first time period that he jumped to, right back in the prologue chapter. Because Megatron wasn't on Cybertron at this time period. This is after Megatron has been shipped off to Messetine. And
yeah, that's true.
We get to the end of the issue, and the three time periods that they've jumped to that Megatron singles out are this. Hang on. This is the. Hang on. I gotta actually go into the fates on this one. Right. This is the fourth cycle 499. No, sorry. They're about to travel back to the fourth cycle 499, which is 1 year earlier. So that meant that it was cycle 500 was the year that they were in, and Megatron on the last page points that out as the day that they lost Terminus. So this could be a bit nonlinear, but no, I suppose they couldn't have followed him back here if I don't know. Fuck. I mean, what I'm saying is that this should be roughly around the same time that Births, Deaths, and Intervention happened, issue 34, the story with Terminus in it. But this doesn't seem to be Brainstorm after he jumped to that time period, because our heroes have specifically followed him here from last issue.
Yes.
But it's pointless. I'm saying that's why maybe he would say finally, because there's no point in him being here anyway, because Megatron is not on Cybertron.
Just brain is melting.
In other news, can I just mark out for the fact that Tailgate's riding inside Cyclonus like movie Galvatron?
That's fantastic. I love that.
It's brilliant.
So once he's gone, Percy tells them all to regroup at McAdams, and basically the quantum engines are running out of juice.
Time for 2 more jumps. Now.
Dun.
They need to get the Mr. Fusion powered up.
And we jump back a year. Exactly a year. To exactly the same point. And the only difference...
Exactly a year, but it's the previous year.
The only difference is that the window isn't broken.
Yes. And you could see the broken window on the previous page.
Yes.
And we knew all the way back in More Than Meets the Eye number 9, when we read it originally, that window was broken as a result of Rung's head smashing off it when he got into a barroom fight, as seen in Chaos Theory back in the ongoing series. Which we're about to come back to.
Yes. I think Rodimus basically speaks for the audience when it comes to all the wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff at this point. I think I'm past...
But,
no way, I am past caring. And the fact he's looking straight out.
he's specifically talking about coming up with excuses for their appearance, but, like, I mean, at this point in the story, we as an audience are not concerned with that.
Yeah. And yes, we have basically dropped in on the Rung Megatron Impactor bar fight.
Yes, the previous scene was concurrent with More Than Meets the Eye number 9. This one is concurrent with Chaos Theory Part 1 from the ongoing series.
And at this point, Rodimus is saying, well, why are we here? Why are we here exactly? You know, Pax is miles away. If Brainstorm's here, what's going on? And people, I imagine, the penny is starting to drop of what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Especially after what we've just seen with Rung in the More Than Meets the Eye number 9 pitch.
Mm-hmm. A few miles away, Rung is...
Rung.
Look, it's another Rung. It's the same Rung? No.
It's the Rung of...
It's the Rung of the past. Is on his Segway.
That seems to be... I guess that's made out of his backpack. Because he doesn't have his wheel butt.
Yes. That's quite cool. Anyway, basically gets shock buzzed by Brainstorm.
Gasp.
And knocked out?
Well, why would Brainstorm want to knock out Rung?
This doesn't make any sense.
I don't know. Hey, do you want to know something preposterously nerdy?
I wouldn't be surprised by it, but so please go on.
I know what he's whistling.
Seriously?
What?
He's whistling the Empyrean Suite, that sinister piece of music that's been mentioned a couple of times, but that we still don't know what the story behind is. And I know that because I went and I dug out issue 16 when Swerve played the music for Magnus when he was by his bedside, and the notes match.
So Rung is whistling it, then it's so catchy.
Whistling it.
Sorry?
Then Brainstorm picks up whistling it.
So what's it mean? Who knows?
That is the question. I mean, we know that it has... It's one of Magnus's favorite pieces of music, so obviously it was just a piece of music, and I don't think Rung would tootle down the street whistling it if it had the sinister connotations yet. But somewhere along the way, it picks up these sinister connotations. It's connected to Skids' lost memories for some reason, and Chrome Dome hopes that he never finds out because it's connected to that song, which means something dreadful. And that's like the fact that I think it was Swerve played it, and Ratchet was like, "Please don't." So, like, the sinister connotations are public knowledge, but we as an audience don't know what they are yet. A lot of people have thought that it might be the music Tarn plays, but and you might even catch people saying that as a fact, because there seems to be like a sort of a misconception that that's been confirmed as truth, but it's never been said. I mean, it might well be, but it's never actually been.
It's not
said
canonical yet.
A lot of people say it as if it were canon. Anyway, with that moment of preposterous nerdliness behind us,
Another nerdy question for you, then, Chris. Should Should we recognise the Wellbeing Clinic?
It strikes a bell, but I haven't looked it up.
You know,
I mean,
is it just Rung's practice, or is it something else?
I figure it's just where Rung works at the very least, but the term specifically rings a bell, but it might just be from Rung having talked about his past in the past. It doesn't make me think of anything in particular. Doesn't set off any alarm bells, just seems vaguely familiar.
It seems very specifically drawn. Makes me wonder.
I mean, it might be to show that. No, I suppose I was going to say that this is definitely a separate rung, but they've already said that by putting it a few miles away. So
Yeah.
yeah, the sign is quite large. I suppose. Well, it might just be an artistic cue to say this is not McAdams. He is not going to McAdams. He is going somewhere else. He is not there. This is not that. Nah.
So we are at the police HQ, or near the police HQ of Rodion, where Chrome Dome seems less interested or less worried about being seen now.
Well, I assume they're on the roof.
Yes, but surely he was he working there then?
Maybe not then.
That's a year prior. Yeah, we don't know, I suppose.
Yeah, he might not have been. Yeah.
And him and Rewind are playing What Can You See of Prowl and people hitting him in the stars.
Heard about that game before.
And they talk about Dominus Ambus. Chris.
Yes.
Dominus Ambus.
Rewind's former conjunct Endura. They talk about how he and Rewind are at this moment in time off looking for Luna 1, which we heard about back in issue 12. I want to say it was 12.
Was Dominus Ambus as well the Minimus Ambus's brother in the first part of this story, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's TV face dude.
Yeah.
We've never seen Dominus in the flesh in the present day. Outside of that flashback, with his proper head, we've only heard about him and seen him in flashbacks. And he disappeared. After they came back to Cybertron, sometime in the future, he disappeared, and Rewind has never stopped looking for him.
And Rewind suggests at this point taking the time case.
When did we start calling it time case?
Time everything, isn't it? That's what I like. He suggests taking the time case to find out what has happened to him, or what does happen to him, and if they can stop it or not. And just before he answers the question, is that you and me wouldn't, Brainstorm saying you and me, Chrome Dome is saying you and me wouldn't happen, is that what you want? And before he can answer that, Whirl rocks up. Of all the people you want walking in when you're having a deep and meaningful with your significant other, someone like Whirl is not that person. And he's as subtle as, well, a brick to the face.
It is a great entrance. Guess who just turned up?
What? Labots.
It's the fact that he's lunging as well.
Yeah. Well, he's always kind of lunging.
Yeah.
His legs are like that.
It's just kind of like, yes!
Oof!
Pirate Captain Whirl. And guess who's just turned up outside the station? Me! That's seriously... seriously Whirl's biggest moment so far of this comic, and most interesting thing he's found of travelling in the past, is seeing himself with some nobody called Crossbar. A complete nobody whose name you can remember 4 million years later. Yeah, but that's because he was the last bot I hauled in before I was arrested. And, well, touching his fingers together, today's the day we arrest Megatron.
I love that little panel. They're doing some really fun things with Whirl's claws lately.
Realise I can actually do something with it. And we cut to McAdams' oil house, and there are Megatron and Impactor sat at the table. And we just wait for it to unfold. We know what's going to happen. Or we think we know what's going to happen. Actually, what happens isn't... well, it is what we see in... it's Chaos Theory, wasn't it? These 2 pages are lifted from.
Yeah, they are lifted straight, yep.
Yeah. But it's not Rung, who we thought it was. It's... No, not then Rung, it's now Rung.
of the present day. Knocks over a glass, getting a curly straw for tailgate.
Yeah, it's getting all confusing. I've just gone Spaceballs watching Spaceballs the movie. It's now.
No, I think a lot of people theorize this might go down this way.
Yeah.
And after the scene earlier in the comic, I don't think there was any question about it. And because we have to remember, it hasn't really come up recently, but Rewind called Rung a historical constant back during the Shadowplay present day storyline, where it talked about how he'd been present for nearly all the major events in Cybertron history. And it's looking, I mean, okay, obviously there's only been like 3 or 4 of them here, but it's looking more and more like that's just a product of his future self time traveling back to things that were already important rather than his just happening to be there.
It's all gone timey-wimey. So, he wouldn't have been there if they hadn't travelled back in time. But he
wouldn't have travelled back in time if he hadn't already been there. Because this wouldn't have been like, okay, his role in the other 2 pages is virtually irrelevant. It doesn't influence time at all. But that's why Brainstorm knocks out Rung, because he believes, as we as an audience believe, that it was the Rung of the past who was responsible for getting into the fight at the bar with Megatron and causing Megatron to be arrested, causing Megatron to learn the power of applied violence, causing the outbreak of the Great War. But it turns out it wasn't.
No, and at this point, if the penny hadn't dropped before, the pound coin has dropped. What Brainstorm is actually trying to do.
Mm-hmm. And it also verifies what I said last time, based on the idea that Rodimus had saved his own spark, which is that the actions our heroes are taking are and always were part of the timeline that they knew. It's one of those immutable history type deals.
Riptide throws the time case at someone who's about to shoot Impactor. Megatron is hiding under a table at this point. And the Lost Light crew do one at pace out the door. I do like the fact that we have the, don't make eye contact with anybody, especially not you, Tago. Why not me? Because you've got one of those faces. What's wrong with my face? It's basically a punch magnet.
So rude.
I just love that this fight's going off in the background as well. And yeah, we have Brainstorm outside watching the police arrive, basically.
Mm-hmm. Unbelievable.
And then, as I say, the penny, pound, and £10 note should have dropped by now for most people. Adam, did you see this coming?
Not until the previous, like, McAdams scene where we had the reprinted pages from Shadowplay, and then it kind of all started to fall together for me at that point that we were headed down this road.
Chris?
Well, not. I guess I say not until we got the reprinted pages. I didn't really. I mean, I'd seen people theorize it, but I didn't really buy into it until the reprinted pages happened. I was like, "Oh, no, this is the way we're headed."
I mean, I think we all didn't think it would be he's going to kill Orion Pax.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't believe that was the goal. But basically, it was apparent from the prologue chapter that the Cybertron that had been created was a Cybertron where the war never happened, not a Cybertron where Orion Pax had died.
Nerdy question for you, Chris.
Oh.
Another one. Is where Brainstorm's watching saying unbelievable? Are they the 2 guys deploying from Roller, or is it a Roller lookalike transport?
Oh, I didn't notice, but Roller would be a cop at this stage, so it might be Roller.
I only just noticed. I was looking at it. And,
didn't notice myself. Yeah,
looks like Trucky.
Could be.
So I'm just trying to put the time frame together at this point. So our last issue, was their jump the same as Brainstorm's first jump?
Well, it took them back to the place to the same time that Brainstorm had visited, but it may not have it. The fact that he was on Mesotine when he made his first jump, and was on Cybertron this time, would imply he came back to this time period twice. Now, Perceptor said that going to Mesotine was just a calibration exercise. I didn't believe that when I read it. Never mind now. I can't figure out why he would come back here a second time. I'm not sure. I can't figure that one out.
Well, you get the feeling that he is. Well, I mean, skipping to the end, Brainstorm is trying to stop the war, and the easiest way to stop the war is to stop Megatron becoming Megatron.
Yes.
So he's gone to Mesotine.
The day that Megatron lost Terminus.
To stop something happening there, but it's too late.
Yes.
He's come here to stop
Megatron from being arrested
and getting beaten up by Whirl and becoming Megatron.
Yeah.
But thanks to Rung, it happens. And the previous time zone, we don't know where Megatron was at that point.
Megatron was. He said Megatron explains it at the end of the issue. He says that in the previous issue it was the day that Megatron that Megatron was killed. The day Megatron took his first life on Proteus 12, as seen in Megatron Origin #1, and we never saw Brainstorm in that issue, and that's obviously because Brainstorm was not on Cybertron that issue. The only reason our heroes went to where they did was because they had assumed he was going to kill Orion Pax, so they went where they knew Pax was. But it wasn't where Brainstorm was.
Ah. Okay. Got it now.
But as I say, I'm unsure what Brainstorm is doing in this time period, in the first half of this issue, a second time. That one, I can't suss that one.
So, he's watching McAdams.
Yeah, even then he's watching McAdams.
So, did something with Quark and Nightbeat happen with Megatron that would have caused that?
Yeah, the fact he's zooming in on Quark. Yeah, is fairly significant, I think.
Yeah. I wonder if Quark... interesting. Hard to... I really can't say.
I think Quark may become of future significance.
Yeah, I mean, we know he's not somebody we know already, because guys like Trepan or Rossum or whatever, they all existed at this point in time contemporaneously. We've seen them. Yeah, maybe Quark does factor in here somehow. Would be, but yeah, well, who knows?
Yeah, something that Quark does obviously turns Megatron, or he's the guiding rails of Megatron becoming Megatron. I think that's what we've got to assume from that, which I'm guessing we'll find at a later date.
Even next issue, Brainstorm will probably deliver a deluge of explanation next issue, as more than meets the eye's want is normally.
Yeah. And obviously everything that up until we'll get to the end of the issue, and then we'll discuss the outcome. We have a cutaway page as in the story to modern day, and basically the Lost Light has frozen. It's stopped. It's not moved. Everything else is going on. The ship is
other way around.
Everything at present day has stopped. The only temporary active, the ship is now the only temporarily active event in the entire universe. Less than an hour, the entire timeline will collapse, and we cut back to Magnus Vision looking at Megatron, and he doesn't recognize him.
I think we've made a huge mistake.
Uh-oh. At the police HQ... Meanwhile, the other part of the story, Spring Arm and Wheel Arch are being taken apart.
As seen in Chaos Theory Part 2.
and Rewind wants to intervene, but, Brainstorm... Chrome Dome... I always get them confused. Chrome Dome is saying, look, we can't. We're bystanders. We can't. If it's something with packs, yes. Otherwise, we can't get involved. At which point, Hammer and Anvil rock up. And Whirl loses his mind. Well, Whirl goes full Whirl, really, doesn't he?
Yeah, been a while.
Yeah. Flash of light from the eye, big open claws, and just, trashes Hammer and Anvil, puts him down.
Doesn't kill him.
No.
Well, Chrome Dome stops him before
Yes. Because he's obviously, Chrome Dome's worried about what's going on. If you, kill them and you could end up killing me. Because they don't know, they don't know what has affected. But actually, we find out Whirl was stopped being a watchmaker because of these two guys. It's their fault.
We knew this from issue number 6, as the foot says. Yes.
These two turned up, and then it's just starting to unravel a little bit of it. Hammer and or Anvil. It was never about protection money. The Functionalist Council wanted us to put you in your place. They found out that one of their functionaries, a moderate, had given you permission to change jobs. We were told to kill your career, first your tools, then your hands. My hands, but that was later. The Senate did that to get me on side. Back then, the Functionalists controlled the Senate. Who do you think invented Imperator? Dun, dun, dun.
That didn't come as a terrible surprise to me.
Not after seeing the Functionalist Council in the first part of this story, when they're all cogs and...
Yeah. I mean, given they were talking about how they'd specifically replaced Imperator,
Yeah. Whirl then is annoyed and uses his special gun from Brainstorm's laboratory to shoot some poor chump who just vaporizes. It's horrible. Don't know really what happens to him, but obviously, Whirl doing that's going to have affected something. We don't know who this guy is, do we?
No, we don't seem to have ever seen him before, yeah.
We don't get a clear shot of him, really, either.
No, Whirl gets a pretty clear shot of him. But it's gruesomely apparent why we've never seen this guy before.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've seen the Senate's thugs once or twice, these guys specifically, in this story and again during Shadowplay. But this guy didn't make it through. Although, I mean, good God, what's happening to him?
Well, he's expanding from the inside out and ripping his own ears off by the looks of it.
Well, I don't know about expanding, but he has ripped his own ears off, hasn't he? I mean, look, he's going all veiny, though.
Yeah.
Like, I'm wondering, I mean, is it killing him, or what's it doing to him? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, we never actually find out, do we?
Yeah.
Not nice.
Maybe he is someone. Maybe he's going to turn into someone.
Yeah. That's probably why we don't get to see a clear shot of him.
The conspicuously unnamed. If anybody goes without a name in a James Roberts story, you sort of look twice at them.
Just a theory.
Mm-hmm.
Could this be the birth of another member of the DJD?
Would it matter given that they've all been replaced at this stage?
Would they?
Well, I don't know. Fuck the DJD and let's not talk about them.
I'm just thinking, tying into the overarching, where we came from in the story to get to this point. It's been a DJ. It's had DJD undertones.
I know, but still.
And we end.
Yes, anyway.
with the realization of what's going on. They're going. Brainstorm is going backwards through history of the things that happened with in Megatron's life, the most important events in Megatron's life. Brainstorm is charting his journey, his hotspots, and he jumps again. Or Percy's viewing it. He's jumped again. He gets a lock on him, and Megatron puts his finger on it. First cycle, 0, 1, 2. How do you know? The day I was created. You turn the page. And if Brainstorm has his way, it's the day I die. And we have Megatron in state of creation, Brainstorm with a gun pointed at his spark, the briefcase burnt out at his feet, Little Pinky pointed out on the gun. And that's where we end. With the very clear indication that if he couldn't stop Megatron, he was going to kill him. So Adam.
Yo.
This is the Decepticon master plan, or is this a Brainstorm master plan, or is there people at work behind Megatron's back? Was this something put into place by a high up Decepticon officer that if Megatron ever went Autobot, they had someone to stop it happening?
Well, possibly. I still kind of go back to the fact that has this Brainstorm actually outright come out and gone, I am a Decepticon, or is it just the fact they found a mask on another ship with a parallel university type Brainstorm? Yeah. We're assuming that he's a Decepticon double agent. I think.
The side front cover claims it, but I agree. I have always considered that questionable at best. Now, what it means, I don't know. What the symbol inside the faceplate means, I do not know. But I've never bought into this straight idea that Brainstorm was a Decepticon outright, and I think that this proves it. If he's come back to kill Megatron,
I think there's a lot more to it than just this is Decepticon double agent being nefarious, and I don't think they throw away Brainstorm quite that easy, to be honest.
No, it was always hard to get. It's even morally grey as he has always been presented. It's very hard to consider Brainstorm just a Decepticon.
So, are you then suggesting that this is something he's done off his own back?
I feel like it, yeah, but I don't know why.
I mean, I'm sure that will get explained, but I mean, that's where I'm coming from. Is this has a feeling of someone in the Decepticon hierarchy has put a sleeper agent in so deep that they've had no other impact, to the point where they've been creating weapons to kill Decepticons for the unique possibility of taking out Megatron if he turns Autobot. The thing that goes against that is that he's been planning this since day one of the Lost Lights launch.
Well, here is my thought. And this is crazy now, so strap yourself down for this one. Like you say, this is a plan that Brainstorm has had in place for a while. Why is it taking him until now to do this? Well, he basically did it as soon as all the chaos that happened after the Lost Light relaunched. He didn't do it beforehand because the big dramatic change with Megatron hadn't happened. And why did he never do it before that? Well, if we see on this last page here, Megatron's spark is blue.
Mm-hmm.
But we know Megatron is a 0.1%er. And Brainstorm's got a 0.1%er spark that he picked up from Luna 1.
Uh-huh.
Could we be witnessing one of those, are our heroes going to come back in time now, and is that spark going to become Megatron? Will Brainstorm successfully pull the trigger on that and then And then will they have to save Megatron with this 0.1% spark, or is it Brainstorm's intention to replace the spark, or?
I think if it can't be his intention to do it.
Yes, to replace the spark. Yes.
Yeah, because
it does. Yes, no, you're right there. Yes, because he could have done. He should have. Yeah. So picking up the spark doesn't necessarily, yes, alter the time frame of the plan. Yes, no, you're right there.
So, I think you could be bob on that they might have to.
I mean, the next issues are listed on the facing page here. 3 killers, 2 outcomes, and 1 terrible, terrible choice. Is the terrible, terrible choice to save Megatron's life?
Yeah, and, well, to create Megatron.
Yes.
As he is.
Yeah. How about that, then?
Not as crazy as you might think, to be honest.
No, surprisingly not crazy.
Yeah, surprisingly logical. Oh, dear. Adam, any counter theory?
No, Chris has kind of just blown it all away. I think, to be honest, I like his idea. I think it's probably spot on for what we might actually get. I never picked up on the colour of the spark.
We've never seen Megatron spark before, at least not since this whole 0.1% thing came into being. But Megatron's been identified by other characters as being on that Phase 6er 0.1% power level. Even though Megatron is always protesting about whether, I mean, like, I feel like, you know, there has been at least one straight goof before about 0.1%ers, who is and who isn't, and that was whenever the comic claimed Impactor was one. But that wasn't physically possible because Impactor was part of the Equitas trials, and only constructed cold Autobots were part of those trials. So the trade paperback went back and replaced Impactor's name with Grimlock's. So there have been some straight cock-ups like that. But because Megatron has always protested ever actually revealing, even as far back as Chaos Theory, Megatron has always protested revealing whether or not he was constructed cold or forged. And that then helps maybe create a slight ambiguity and would not cause someone to call into question what I've just called into question by looking at this last page. But he was included on a list of 0.1% or strength level bots in a previous issue, which, you know, if that's accurate, that would mean he's forged, which would mean his denial serves no narrative purpose to us as an audience because we know that he's forged already. But so what I'm saying is I feel like this is maybe the ambiguity that Megatron creates about his origins is supposed to obfuscate this point narratively now, but because he was mentioned in that list in a previous issue way back when, it didn't obfuscate it. There.
So, who are the 3 killers?
Brainstorm, Whirl, and Megatron?
Yeah, I'd go with that.
Oh, is Whirl going to have to be the one that replaces his spark? Oh, that'd be a proper slap in the face for Whirl. It would kind of
be for anybody though, because Whirl's already responsible for Megatron anyway. I don't know that it adds any. I mean, I get what it would do as a story, but it's like I don't feel like it would add any kind of extra grief or guilt to Whirl's story because he's already essentially responsible for Megatron being the way he is as it is. I'm wondering how that him finding out about the functionist thing is going to pay off. I would assume that'll if he gets the job, like maybe it'll factor in that way somehow. Oh man, I've got this comic sitting open on this last page as well, and the more I look at it, the more like Megatron's arms being different lengths keeps annoying me.
Okay, well let's end the story there. Let's get on to the artwork. Chris, go for it.
Well, they're slightly different lengths. So it's just because I've been looking at this last page for a couple of minutes, and it's just the elbow joint on the right arm is bigger than the one on the left arm, and it makes the arm longer overall. So it's a minor criticism.
Is he supposed to be slightly turned?
Yeah, but even then,
Yeah.
it doesn't follow a natural vanishing point or anything.
But okay.
Yeah, but I'm not ripping it apart or anything. I'm just something I noticed from looking at it repeatedly. I don't have anything in particular to say about the issue. Just the team doing what they do, doing a great job again. I think the Rodion 2-page spread is one of the great images of the book. But I think as great a job as everybody always does, and is doing this issue. Joanna, I think, is the MVP of this issue. Because she's working around 4 reprinted pages from other comics here. And 2 of which she colored herself, which was the Chaos Theory pages, and 2 of which Burcham colored. And she's done such a great job of matching them that they flow in very neatly, even though they're colored in completely different styles. Because obviously Burcham had his very pastel tones for More Than Meets the Eye, and the way Chaos Theory was colored was just, well, I don't know how I would describe it. It was kind of standard. There wasn't anything unusual about it. It just looked the way a Transformers comic looked at the time. And, they're not an exact 1-for-1 match or anything, but the coloring style on the surrounding pages just shifts and slides around so that you're not flipping the page and suddenly seeing a completely different art style. Well, not art style, because they're all done by Milne, but the coloring style is done in such a way that everything flows together very nicely. They don't leap out at you as having been taken from another comic in another time and another art style. It's very well accomplished, and I think that probably makes her contribution to the book the most important this month.
Adam?
I'd absolutely agree with that. I'd also echo I think the use of colour on things like Brainstorm time jumping, is so different to anything else in the issue. Panels like that really stand out. They look really good, and that's largely just down to the colouring and the colour choices. Absolutely spot on. The art's overall is just generally very good. Never really have a problem with the art in More Than Meets the Eye anyway, to be honest. It's always of a very good standard from Alex. The inking and the colours is as Chris said, it's the guys doing what they do. Great job overall, to be honest with you. Lots of small touches, lots of nice touches. I liked Rodimus's movie goggles at the beginning.
Yes,
first few panels. Sliding up and down. It's the little things like that which Alex puts in, which really just make it fun, to be honest. And I like the whole kind of, like I mentioned earlier, tailgate being in Cyclonus, and the colouring of inside that helps too, with the very red sort of movie interior. It's good. No complaints at all from me.
Excellent. Well, I will mirror those comments. I didn't find a single thing that I could actually highlight as being an issue. Nothing stood out as being wrong with it, which is what you want. And I will echo that Joanna's colours are sublime. There are very various different lighting states throughout the book, and she nails just about every single one of them spot on, and brings a lot of energy to the pages that need the energy, and a lot of starkness to the pages that need to be stark. It's lovely. It's lovely work. Okay, Adam, give us a final thought and an overall rating.
I think it's a fantastic issue, probably the best single issue we've had since Dark Cybertron, for me. I got a lot of enjoyment out of this. It felt really meaty, like a long comic, which is always good. Value for money when you actually get to really read a comic and get something out of it. It felt like there was a lot more in it than not just an issue of More Than Meets the Eye, but any comic off the shelf, really, to be honest. And I think any sort of fan of the characters, of the cast, of More Than Meets the Eye will get a lot out of this too. For a score, to be honest, I'll just give it 5 out of 5. I don't have a bad thing to say about it, and I really, really want the next issue like now. So it's probably the best praise that anyone can ever give a TV series, a comic, a movie, anything that you want the next installment immediately.
Chris?
Oh, I'm struggling to come up with a reason to not give it 5. But my reason is a dumb one. But I'm holding back on it. I'm holding back, and I'm giving it a 4.5 because payoff is key on this. The next issue is the payoff. I have generally had problems with More Than Meets the Eye's big epic story style payoffs, except the last one was very successful. The previous two, not so much. So payoff is everything in a story like this. So if that lands and sticks it, I might retroactively upgrade this to a 5. But if it muffs it, it's going to retroactively taint the whole arc. So I'm holding back and going on a 4.5, and we'll see what happens next month. And just on top of what Adam said there as well about the size of the comic, thought I would just mention as well that the reprinted pages from More Than Meets the Eye and Chaos Theory, they're in here on top of the regular 22 pages, so you've got a 26-page comic.
Which is nice.
Always nice.
That's good.
I thought it felt long. When I was flicking through it, it felt meatier. Felt like it took longer to get to the end. I am going to agree with you, Chris, in terms of sticking the landing. There has been various issues with payoff. I don't think anyone could argue with that. And
plenty would.
If they don't get this right, it will taint the whole arc. But I am going to give it a 5 because I think you can't. I can't fault this because of what may or might not happen in the next issue. This as an issue is a 5. That means if they stuff up the end of it, next issue will probably be a 1 or a 2.
I work backwards.
But in terms of,
you can use your time case, Chris.
Yes,
we've all got one now.
Actually, what you don't realize,
yeah, just jump back.
Electro knocked out the past me, and this is future me having come back in time to let you all know that they stuff up the ending, and it's only a 4.5.
You've got to let Adam know if future Adam does have problems with all the hot toys he keeps ordering.
It's terrible. In the future, hot toys are the only currency. No, you're going to be all right. They are the only currency, and truly, the people with a full Avengers team are lauded as gods among men.
Well, even the ones that had to buy Hawkeye.
Oh, that's all right then.
Especially the ones that had to buy Hawkeye. That's why I had to come back to stop it from happening.
Bad times.
I've said too much.
I wonder what noise the time case made. Anyway, so we will call RID. I've only been doing this for 8 months. More Than Meets the Eye 37 to a close here. I will say a massive thank you to Chris and Adam.
Welcome, sir.
No problem at all.
And we will see you next time on the Underbase.
Woo!
Bye!
Bye-bye.
Underbase complete. Cease transmission.